When looking for the right digital piano, it's important to check out the leaders in the industry. Today we look at Yamaha's CLP line and compare it against the Kawai CA line. Two fantastic instrument groups. We'll be talking about all the instruments that fall under the categories of CA concert artists from Kawai and all the instruments that fall under the CLP line from Yamaha. Stick around, you're not going to want to miss it.
Hi, this is Ted with Alamo Music Center in downtown San Antonio, Texas.
I'm Patrick Marr. You can find us online at alamomusic.com. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channels, check out our other videos, sign up for notifications, like our videos, leave us comments. We appreciate the support and we love to interact with you. Ted, the piano fact of the day is... You don't have one?
I don't have one.
I got one.
I thought
so, when you look at an acoustic instrument, like a piano, you just assume it's always been made this way, right? And we've highlighted different videos or different piano facts. So before we start all our videos, we like to get into a piano fact. Today, the piano fact I'm bringing, it's not the leather hammers versus the felt hammers, which we've done before. But there was actually a way that pianos were made before. You know, when you look at an acoustic instrument in a grand piano, the strings kind of overlap on each other, right? And they call this their scale design, right? And every manufacturer has their own math behind it and why they do it to each centimeter and blah, 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 right? But before they had that crossover to save space, what did they do?
Straight strung.
And so what's your take on the straight strung piano?
I've always liked straight strung pianos.
And they don't make them, so this is an obsolete technology. It's a piano fact of the history. The straight strung piano.
I don't believe they're being manufactured and sold anymore.
They're not.
There are custom guys that do them, and there's guys that do restorations and rebuilds.
That's the most popular.
Remanufactured. Mm-hmm. And they're different. The sound is not as, how can I put it? The sound is more spread out, and it seems like the tuning is wider, but it's not really. It's just the sound doesn't have cross waves in it. I don't know how to explain it. Mm-hmm. It's a flatter sound. It's more of a truer sound of a piano. And especially when you realize that for the first, I think, 20 or 35, 40 years of pianos, piano manufacturing and designing and coming up with the instrument at the beginning of the 19th century, they were all straight strung.
Mm-hmm. They didn't have the other way.
And they didn't have the other way yet. And part of that crossing over was done for a couple of reasons. One is to cut down on the amount of lumber and to cut down on the size of the plate that they were starting to put in, the cast iron plates, even though those were just about getting developed. A lot of times they used steel rods. And originally harpsichord cases were neater because they were plain. There wasn't the curve to it. And you don't get the curve until around 1840, I think, or sometime around there is when you start getting that shape. But the idea behind a straight strung was that the action didn't have any bends in it that much. The action was pretty easy. And there's one thing that makes a straight strung piano a lot more pure and different is that you're supposed to be 1/8 of the string length in where the hammers hit, so that you get 7/8 of the string is pure tone and the 1/8 is from the strike tone, because where you strike a string makes a difference in how the tone is produced and the timbre that comes out of that string. Mm-hmm. And so pianos need to be kind of struck. That's why the stringing always gets shorter and all the hammers are lined up, so they're all pretty much hitting in about that same range.
The eighth.
It's more precise on a straight strung piano.
Interesting. So, piano fact of the day, straight strung pianos used to be the way pianos were made. Today, the majority of pianos are not acoustic pianos, but digital pianos.
Digital pianos.
And today we're looking at two of the most popular product lines, the CLP line from Yamaha, the Clavinova line, and the CA concert artist line from Kawai. When you look at Yamaha, there's, the story of the Clavinova is really the story of the first digital piano, and you owned
I had the very first Clavinova, and there was an instrument called the YP-40, and it had something it wasn't a Clavinova, But I think the year after, as they were going into it, they had started, there was a tone on there called Clavinova. And that was taken as a name for the whole new series of instruments that came out about a year or so later. I bought one of those YP40s, and it wasn't really a sampled type of keyboard. It was a combination of analog sounds, which a lot like the CP30s that Yamaha had. They were solid state things, but when they went to the Clavinova, that was a sample. It was an 8-bit sample. They were short-lived. You could hear the looping in almost any key that you could hear it, almost like a record going around. And over time, the action got better, the sounds got better, the boxes got better. Originally, it was just make a box and put speakers in it. There wasn't a whole lot of detail done other than getting the best sample for the least amount of money into that, onto the chip, into the computer.
Yeah, and they weren't cheap back then either. They were close to $3,000.
I told you this on a video we shot last week. I paid almost $3,000 for an 8-bit machine that had 3 piano sounds in it and a stereophonic wavy thing.
So this video we're going to be talking about the product line overviews, and so the CLP line has become kind of I would say their spin-it alternative. And a lot of people, especially I would say in the last 25 years, have played a lot of CLPs. There's been a lot of CLPs sold, and it's a really popular digital piano that is affordable, has a range of basic features to premium features, and has been a real staple of the industry. And you look at Kawai, the CA series, their concert artist series. It seemed like about 20 years ago they were trying to play catch up with Yamaha.
In the digital end, yes.
Their acoustic pianos have always been rivals as the premier piano of Japan. And depending on who you ask, there's different tonal profiles, different touch profiles, and it comes down to players' preference at some point.
Right.
The digital world, Yamaha had the upper hand for a very long time. They were the first to do a lot of these things.
They had more money to put into R&D than almost anyone else, just based on the amount of sales they had from Yamaha musical instruments. And then you could break it down. There's keyboards, and then it goes to all the different areas. But the keyboards from the 70s up through about the end of the 80s, they were always innovating brand new things until they got a new product. And a lot of times that product was great, but they just couldn't afford to manufacture it anymore. And because you couldn't make enough of them to sell enough of them to make it profitable. The CS80 was like that.
The DX7.
And the the DX7 was profitable.
Yeah.
The DX1 was not.
Yeah.
Okay, those lower line ones cost way too much money, and it was too selective of a market, but everyone wanted one. And so Yamaha has always been great at innovation, research and development, and creating desire in consumers for the product. Because back in the 80s, if you saw a Yamaha ad, that thing was not coming out until 4 or 5, maybe 6 months later.
And so, you fast forward till today, and the features that you see on digital pianos. And so Kawai, again, I think was playing catch up for a long time until about 10 years ago. 8 to 10 yeyears ago, Kawai really came to its own. And in the last 2 generations that I've seen, the CA98 to the 99 to now the 901, their premium line, as well as the CA48, 49, and now we're looking at the 401 that's coming out in the next couple months. Those models have rivaled Yamaha as far as feature set, as far as action, as far as sound sample, as far as features go that players care about. It's almost like the cards have all been laid out at this point, and the closer you can get to an acoustic instrument, the better. And of course, new features like Bluetooth come out every 20 years. But as far as great feel, great sound, and key features,
I think the key feature of a digital piano in the last 30 years has been primarily this: replace the acoustic spin-it piano and the low-rise console pianos, uprights. And they really, for the most part, have done that. And almost all, I'd say at least the bottom 2, if not 3, of both Yamaha and Kawai digital pianos come in less than I paid for one 35 years ago.
Yeah, and so the market has...
And what you get is, I never imagined that you would get what you get now for $1,500 or $2,000 when I had a $3,000 machine 35 years ago, because there was no drums, there was nothing like that on it, no memory, everything was limited, and it was just to give the idea of playing a piano. To where it's really like playing the piano.
And so we've created some videos of the different line, and we encourage you guys to watch those, because it's interesting when you look at Yamaha and Kawai, at every price point, they really kind of have an offering. And so when you're, so when you're right at starting the line, the CLP 725, we've compared that to the CN series from Kawai, because they kind of separate things that have wood keys and that have a plastic action. But the CN 201 and the CN 301, when you look at the 735, it's the CA 49, the 745, the CA 59, the 775, it's the CA 701, and the 785, it's the CA 901. And so we've done videos comparing these two, each of these, because we really think that at every level there is a reason to check out both. And when you see the top features from Kawai, the soundboard on their 901, the Virtual Artisan, which is their technician app where you can go and change the sample, change the modeling around the sample, and then you look at their new competition Grand that they've introduced to the 901 and the 701. They're really trying to outpunch their price point.
Oh, they are.
And I think successfully,
I think they're doing it too.
Successfully, they are they're pushing the envelope on what can be offered in a digital piano, because they've done things like what you would expect on what people call hybrid pianos.
Right. Well, see, that's the other interesting thing is there's about, I think, 4 or 5 core models in the digital of Kawai versus Yamaha. But what's interesting is underneath the CLP and the CA line, there's competing products as well at almost every price point.
Yeah.
And then above these two
there's
CLPs,
hybrids, and there's
the hybrids, and then there's the transducer type. But each of them there's the NU1, the NX, and the N2, the N3. There's those product lines, and then Kawai has the NV5S and the NV10. And those are higher grade.
And I think it's important to see that and realize that both of these manufacturers will try. The reason that they have these available is because they really realize that people should play both of these and make a decision based on
their personal preference.
And so it's both these instruments categories are highly competitive, but I would say the most similar the two are these two Japanese companies that are rooted in the same city. They came both from Hamamatsu, Japan. And
they have common ownership. And I mean, from the beginning, I mean, Koichi Kawai made the first working piano action in Japan for Mr. Yamaha.
And so it's one of those things where if you don't try both, you might be doing a disservice to yourself.
Selling yourself short. Yeah.
And unless you really love the sound of one or the other, that's the only or the feature set is there. I really think it comes down to player's preference, how the instrument responds to you. Kawai clearly states they think they make the best action for every price point. I have a hard time disagreeing with that because of the experience of playing some of the Kawais. You've made this comparison before. You say the Kawai action feels like a perfectly broken in instrument, a perfectly broken in grand piano you just bought.
It's like, when you went to college, they had all the rooms to practice in, or if you play in all these churches, there's always that one piano. It's like, oh man, I love this because it's broken in, it plays great.
It's been tuned, it's been regulated multiple times, and it feels like it's perfectly playable.
Well, some pianos are proud of themselves, and when you play them, you can tell.
And so that's the feeling you sometimes get when playing a Kawai, especially on their upper level digitals. It's just the Grand Feel 3 action is what they call it. It's got the counterbalance weights. It's got the longer key. It really attacks that this is a perfectly regulated instrument. And then the Yamaha stuff, your kind of your take is it plays like a not broken in new piano.
Yeah, the Yamaha stuff plays like it's almost brand new, like all the time. It's not that it doesn't get bouncy. I mean, I've seen Clavinovas get destroyed and broken keys, and everything does fall apart, and they do wear out different ways. But the one thing I wanted to point out is that both Yamaha and Kawai, they have different approaches toward their acoustic pianos and their marketing and stuff like that. when it comes to this digital piano stuff, I think Kawai is at the point to where they want to be as equally respected in the digital piano world as Yamaha, or in some instances, like a lot of people feel Roland is as well. There's other digital manufacturers out there. These two here is almost like they have it in for each other, and they want to compete on the same playing field, the same price point, the same amperage, the same speaker size. And it's really kind of interesting because they do go neck and neck. And I think between the two of them, they're driving a lot of interest in digital pianos.
I will say, I feel like Yamaha in the last 3 generations has plateaued.
They have, and I will tell you.
Not because it's not a great product, yeah.
It's almost like they stopped trying to invent things and just try to make what they have and improve it as little as possible without having to reconfigure any manufacturing facilities. But Kawai, it almost looks, when you look at what they've done in the last 4 or 5 years in digital pianos, like they deliberately went out to invent something that would be better and would be more enjoyable and more like a real piano than what Yamaha has.
And it's strange to me, and maybe Yamaha will combat it with their next product launch, but the 700 series was, I would say, just they redid the sample a little bit. They expanded the range of their top action to some of the lower ones. And they added those, like, what are those, banjo pianos? No, the like the Chopin piano, the forte pianos. They added like a forte piano as like a key feature that they added, which to me was just like, it was a weird.
Here's the thing, you mentioned this. No one has done a straight strung piano sample. They should go find like a 7 or 8 foot broadwood piano. I think Beethoven had a 6.5 foot broadwood, and sample it. I know they said they have Chopin piano, they have Mozart piano. I don't recall if I saw a Beethoven piano, but he had a straight strung piano, and someone should get a straight strung piano. And the one thing I can say, I wanted to say, I know we were talking about straight strung pianos, but the reason why those CFX and the SK EX samples and the Bosendorfer samples sound so great on digital pianos is the string is so long. It's almost like a straight strung piano because those strings, they're not overstrung as much as they are on a small grand. They start leveling out. And so like your trebles, your 3 strings go all the way down to where they're wrapped on those models because those strings are almost going out there straight. It's real close. The smaller a grand you get, the less of that depth sound that you get. On a straight strung, that depth is always there for however long that string is.
And so the samples you do get on both these instruments, the CLP line and the CA series, again, are the 9-foot concert grands from Kawai, from Yamaha. These, very well-respected instruments that you see on concert stages. You see them all over the place. Yamaha has their Bosendorfer Imperial Grand. They've got their CFX, and those have been on their lineup for a while on their CLP instruments. Kawai has their SKEX rendering. And they've recently added the competition version of it. So a different way that they've mic'd it up. They basically mic'd it from the player's perspective. In the player's role, so when you're sitting in front of the instrument, it's responding as if you were sitting in front of the 9-foot SKEX. And Yamaha had done that idea, but had done it with just a headphone kind of idea. So they did the binaural sample on the CFX and on the Bosendorfer, where if you plug in headphones, it responds as if you were sitting there where the piano would be. And so, both these companies are pushing the limits, and we'll see where the future takes it. But I don't think there's a wrong choice, and we really encourage you to watch the comparisons, the CLPs versus the CAs, because you might be surprised which one your ear likes, which one you like if you are a player already.
Play them, compare them yourself.
Because it's definitely worth it. Definitely worth the time if you will be spending money on an instrument like these. It's worth getting someone's perspective and going out there and trying it out. There'll be lots of comments on this is better, this is better. Please read through them because we encourage that. We encourage people to go and chime in because I think this is, it's bigger than just Yamaha versus Kawai. It's
people hear different things, they feel different things, and they play and touch keys differently.
Yeah, so if you've had the pleasure of owning a digital Yamaha, a digital Kawai, please leave comments on what you liked about it, what you wish they did have that maybe the other one offers. And then watch the videos on the comparisons because that might help you make up your mind a little bit more on which one's correct for you. But yeah, again, this is the CLP line from Yamaha, their kind of standard Clavinova line. The CVP is kind of their technology element of the Clavinova line. And then the Concert Artist Series from Kawai. Thank you guys for watching. This is Ted Barstow. I'm Patrick Marr, and we will see you next time.